all we need to have for a better standard of living is for the government to steal more money. It makes
Right.
no sense.
Thanks for joining and welcome back. Our guest today is my very good friend Rafi Farber from the Endgame Investor. Rafi, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Ivan. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's really great having you on. So much has happened in the past couple of months, or, since the last time you've been on here. There's Fort Knox. Is the gold really there? You have Elon and Trump talking about gold and auditing Fort Knox. You have the tariffs and everything happening at LBMA. First, let's start off with Fort Knox. Do you believe the gold is really there? And what happens if it's not or is? What's the implications?
Don't think it matters either way.
Okay.
I'm not saying that one answer or the other, like if tomorrow we find out, oh, there's nothing there but spider webs. I'm not saying that it won't have an effect on gold. It definitely will. And if we get the news that everything's there and it's not double, triple, quadruple owned and everything's kosher and we can all party now, it's not really going that I don't think that'll affect the gold price that much because because the market assumes that the gold is there. But the whether it's there or not doesn't matter because the the exchange rate the because the natural exchange rate for gold versus dollars in a world where the dollar no longer is trusted is something like 40 50,000 per ounce. It's not anywhere near where it is now.
Right.
And we're headed in that direction, whether there is gold in Fort Knox or not. If there isn't, then we'll get there faster. If there is, we'll get there anyway. So like it's not worth placing bets, unless you have extra change and or you're a billionaire and you want to put a few million on it. It's not worth. I've placed options bets on gold before and I've lost them all.
Oh, geez.
I place. No, it's okay. Like I do it every 2 years. Every 2 years I reload long-term options on one of these gold or silver ETFs just to, if the end game happens within 2 years of my bet, I'll get a lot of dollars. I don't even know if that's going to help me at all.
No, if the dollar
But
comes to an end, it wouldn't matter.
But no, anyway, I reloaded this year on call options on one of the big gold ETFs, and I'm in the money now. So great, maybe I'll make back the 3 4 thousand I lost over the last 10 years. Buying a few $100, every 2 years or so. Maybe not, but it's the same thing. If you want to play the Fort Knox game and you want to buy a few call options on gold, hoping that there's no gold there, and then it jumps up, you might make money. But either way. Either way, the faith in the dollar as a gold derivative is going to be lost, and we got to prepare for that, not whether or not there's gold in Fort Knox.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. Because at the end of the day, if there is no gold at Fort Knox or there is, the fundamentals for gold and silver don't change. They're still there. They'll never ever change for the fundamentals because, yeah, like you said, comparing it to a fiat currency, we're nowhere near where we should be for these precious metals or the real true value of them.
Yeah, I'd say the exchange rate, the value. I mean, value can mean a lot of things. Value in terms of gold and silver as industrial commodities is pretty fair, given that there's no shortages. We're not seeing anything about gold or silver. So we might see that. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen tomorrow or a few weeks from now. I mean, we're seeing the silver float, especially from the LBMA, get drained. So you could have a shortage pretty quickly, especially in monetary metals like gold and silver, where suddenly monetary demand can just like peak out of nowhere in a panic. So that's always possible, and that's what we're betting on. We just don't know exactly when it's going to happen.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the LBMA and everything that's happening and for silver and gold. What do you think is happening at LBMA? Why is this such a massive move of gold out of the LBMA? Or what are your thoughts there?
Uh, I looked at I looked at the LBMA statistics. I think it was last week. I had neglected to look at them for months. It just wasn't interesting. And all of a sudden, I see all this talk about gold being shuttled out of London into New York, and then you look at the gold supplies there. Not really. It could be that the LBMA. It probably is that the LBMA is being used as an exchange system to bring gold from Switzerland to the United States, which is apparently what's happening, which is what
Yeah.
happened in 2020. It's the LBMA, it's an exchange house, an exchange network for the transfer of gold titles. And then they're physically fulfilled in Switzerland and then shipped to New York, with London not really being part of the physical equation. But if you look at the silver float, we're at new record lows. I think it's 722 million ounces. And there was a guy, I think Mario Aneka sent me an article, and I'm going to be talking with him later tonight on his live stream. I think David Jensen wrote that the total number of silver ounces owned by silver ETFs is 522 million, and they store all that stuff in London. So
Wow.
if you take 724 or something, but the difference between the total amount of silver at the LBMA that they admit to having, minus the silver that's owned by ETFs, is about 198 million ounces.
Wow.
That's it. That's it. And now if you look back at Silver Squeeze and you look at the amount of silver that was in SLV at the peak of Silver Squeeze in, I think it was February 2021, right?
Right.
That's how you got your start,
Yeah.
or yeah, that's
Yeah,
how
yeah, because
you
I started it
yeah.
January 31st, and then the next month the silver squeeze really took off.
Yeah. So if SLV had all of the silver it had at the peak of Silver Squeeze, the LBMA would be completely drained. There would be zero there.
Wow. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy.
So I mean, if we do it again, we could do it. But it's trying to get everyone on the same page at the same time is very difficult. But that the numbers are there. We can do it.
Do you think fundamentally, eventually there will be, some type of rush to silver again, like what we seen back when what happened in 2020 and 2021? Like, do you think it'll happen again? Because people fundamentally are going to keep stacking silver no matter what. But just like what you said, it's about getting them all on the same page. Or do you
Mhm.
think there'll be an event like a bank collapse or some type of event that'll take us back to another silver squeeze?
Yeah, it will absolutely happen. That is, if there is any one single bell that rings and says this is the end game, it's the gold to silver ratio.
Right.
I keep saying that the gold to silver ratio at the peak of panic, it won't stay there for a very long time, but at the peak of panic, we know the end game is hit and this is the end of the monetary system. That's when we have this gold to silver ratio of 15 to 1, because that's the historic monetary ratio for hundreds, even thousands of years. That's what it was. And why was it that way? Because nobody had any gold derivatives back in the 1700s.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying there weren't any gold derivatives. There were, but they were very temporary and private and over the counter between parties. If you wanted to travel to, let's say, I don't know, Glasgow to London, and you didn't want to be carrying a whole bunch of gold because you could get robbed on the way. So then in Glasgow, you could get like a note for that amount of gold to be delivered to London that you could ride on horseback to, deliver it to the Bank of England so you could get your gold. That was the extent of gold derivatives, right?
Right.
So if you lost the note, nothing happens because nobody else can use it. That's the point, right? And now we have all this crap like flowing through the system that it pretends to represent the gold and the silver that it doesn't. So I'm saying back then there was no market for gold derivatives. Gold derivatives were a convenience that people used when they needed to.
Right.
But there was no market for them. It's not like they were sold. So in a world where there's no functioning gold derivatives, no market for them, then silver has to be used on a retail level because you can't use gold derivatives because they don't exist.
Yeah.
So then by logical extension, in a world where there are no functioning gold derivatives, what happens to silver? Well, it has to go to 15 to 1 because there's nothing else to use. So that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
What triggers it? In Silver Squeeze, it wasn't quite organic. It was all of us getting on the same page, and through some series of good luck and good messaging, it all came together on one day, and everybody bought a bunch of silver, and it freaked out the ETFs to the point where they actually put it in their prospectus, like the silver stackers are threatening us. We even got that amount of attention is remarkable. But in the end game, it's not going to be planned. It's not going to be us doing it. It's going to be everything coming together organically and say, and
Right.
everyone's saying we need to buy silver and it's going to be a natural silver squeeze and not a lot of people are going to have much.
Yeah, no, you absolutely nailed it, Rafi. Yeah, I'm on the same page as you there. Now, let's talk about, I guess, tariffs. So, what do you think that'll do to the global economy? Do you think it's good, bad, like for the U.S., for Canada, Mexico? Like, what are your whole general thoughts on tariffs?
Okay. So I'm against tariffs on principle because I'm a libertarian. However, um, I can't cheer them on, but I can understand why somebody like Trump would use them for leverage.
Right.
And yeah, but still, I mean, you're threatening to shoot yourself and hoping that the other side says, please don't shoot yourself, because if you shoot yourself, you're shooting me even worse. I see that there is some kind of negotiation value from it, but I don't think the whole idea that all we need to have for a better standard of living is for the government to steal more money makes
Right.
no sense, right?
Yeah, it
The
makes no
tar
sense.
like it doesn't matter how the government steals money. I'm sure there are better ways and worse ways. But if the choice is you steal money or you don't steal money, what's better for me? It's better if you don't steal the money. Okay?
Right.
Just forget all this other stuff. Like the tariffs, it's just another form of theft.
Yeah.
While I don't trust that Trump only sees it as a negotiating tactic, I think he actually thinks they're good. And please, if you're like a MAGA guy and you love Trump, look, I'm very happy with a lot of stuff that he's doing, but I can't just say, oh, it's great and anything he does is great. I know he's going to make a lot of mistakes, and
Oh
tariffs are
yeah.
one of them. And I'm still not discounting them as a negotiating tactic. I just hope that he doesn't take him that seriously. And I think there are better ways to negotiate.
Yeah, yeah, you absolutely nailed it. Because I'm in Canada, and what's been happening is there's a 25% tariff threat. The deadline comes, and then they extend it 30 days. And then that deadline comes again, and then they'll extend it 30 days. So of course it's just a negotiating tactic so that he can either bring people like the to Trudeau to the table or get him to do things or yeah. But yeah, you absolutely
When
nailed
is
it,
he
Rafi.
leaving? When is he gonna leave? Didn't he resign already? Why is he still there?
They closed down the government and they're not resuming parliament for I don't know how many more months, but yeah, he's still in power and he just did his last public interview. He said 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and he said he's going to do everything in his power so that whoever comes in next in Canada as a prime minister, they can't undo his policies.